Looking live at Capitol Hill tonight, where the government is shutting down. In fact, it's early hours of this morning now. Joining me now is Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz of Florida, chair of the Democratic National Committee, and Congressman James Lankford of Oklahoma, the chair of the House Republican Policy Committee. Right, you two. Let me start by a gentle bone toss your way, which has on it a stain on both your houses. Debbie, how do you plead?
Well, I plead with my colleagues who really should just go to the floor and let 218 members of the House of Representatives, not only 218 Republicans, decide what legislation we are going to send to the Senate and then to the President. And unfortunately, because the tail is wagging the dog and extremists have been allowed to run the Republican conference, we are now shut down. We are jeopardizing our economy. We have furloughed 800,000 federal employees, and that is all in the name of denying millions of people access to quality, affordable health care. It's mind-boggling.
Let me ask you this, though, Debbie. Why is it that Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton, in the last shutdown 17 years ago, spoke every single day during that period to try and get something done, and this time, we understand, the President has only spoken to John Boehner twice in a week?
Well, they certainly should be talking, but it's
Why aren't
very
they talking?
Well, they're not talking because the only thing the Republicans are willing to talk about is whether or not we are going to delay or defund or repeal Obamacare. We voted on that 45 times in the House of Representatives, and there's not much else to talk about if that's the only thing they want to talk about. If they want to talk about the spending levels, I sit on the Appropriations Committee, Piers. If we want to talk about the spending levels that we're going to have in the continuing resolution, great. That's appropriate for this discussion and debate. But, you know, in my colleagues' home state, essentially what we're talking about is denying the 89,000 young adults who can now stay on their parents' insurance until they're 26 years old.
Okay, look,
the almost 700,000 people who will now get health insurance.
Let me go to your colleague, James Lankford. I mean, you're going to get the blame, Republicans, no question. You did last time, you will again. And it looks like John Boehner's lost control of a renegade element of his party. And although I think that President Obama has been a pretty poor negotiator here, he has got a point. This is law. He was re-elected with that being the law. People gave him another mandate for this huge Obamacare plan that he had. Why the hell should he be wasting his time negotiating with people who just want to bring him down?
Well, because not only was he re-elected, so were we re-elected. That's the irony of all this. That people in a constitutional government all have a representative and a senator and a president. They all have different opinions. They sit down and work it out. As you mentioned before, Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton sat down and worked it out. Tonight, we asked for a conference committee to say, let's conference with the Senate. That's how we've worked things out since the 1700s when Jefferson wrote the rules in about conferences between the House and the Senate. When we get to an impasse, you sit down and have a conference. We've already agreed, and we're going through the process tonight to say we've done 3 different proposals over to the Senate. All of those have been tabled or rejected by the Senate. So now we're going to vote to the conference. Now we hear that Harry Reid says he's going to table that, and he's not even going to conference. He's not even going to meet to discuss these things. As my colleague mentioned, we've sent 45 things over to the Senate, which they just ignore everyone. At some point, we have to actually sit down and talk about these things, not just send things over to the Senate one after another and pretend that they didn't actually occur. There are real concerns and real problems with the Affordable Care Act. There are real issues that have to be addressed there.
Yeah, but nobody,
and we can't just say they're going to happen someday.
Right, but here's the thing. Nobody disputes that. Everyone knows it's a huge program. Everyone knows there are parts of it which need to be modified, changed, maybe dropped. But Debbie Wasserman Schultz, here I come back to the main problem again, is that there doesn't appear to be a sensible, grown-up, ongoing dialogue between the two people who matter most, Speaker Boehner and President Obama. And you know them both well. You know the President very well. What is wrong with the President that he can't just pick up a phone or go and see Speaker Boehner or get him to come and see him on a daily basis until they thrash out a deal? Isn't that the way any business gets done?
Look, President Obama has made it very clear that as we implement Obamacare, which is going to happen, this is a settled matter. We are not going to repeal or delay, nor should we, Obamacare. And even the people who have been polled that oppose Obamacare think we shouldn't have shut down the government over it, and think that we shouldn't defund or delay it. What we should do is what we have done since the 1700s in America, and that is when a law has problems that we've passed, we sit down and we work together and we hammer out those problems. We don't hold the economy hostage repeatedly until we get our way. The implementation of Obamacare has nothing to do with the continuing resolution, has nothing to do with whether we are going to fund the essential needs of this government. They are separate. They should be treated separately. And now we have shut the government down because the Republicans won't just let it go.
James Lankford,
James,
are you proud of what the Republicans have done tonight?
No, this is the great challenge of us, Piers. I wish we could just sit down and work this out. 45 times we sent something over to the Senate. Every time said, let's sit down, let's talk about this. And we finally reach a point that it's something like this. To be able to sit down and say, no, we're serious. We think that the House and the Senate should sit down and be able to work together. We thought tonight's proposal was actually very reasonable. We've already agreed upon a budget number. We had the budget number, and we added 2 requests to it, that members of Congress and the White House actually are included in Obamacare. It's in the original law. The White House changed it with a waiver, and we said, no, you can't do that. That's not legal in the law. So members of Congress and the White House should be in the exchanges like every other American, take out the deduction. The second thing we asked for was, in the first year of Obamacare, individuals should not have to pay penalties and a tax on it just for the first year. Now, that's already been done for businesses. We just said we think it should be for individuals. This is an extremely confusing law. A lot of people misunderstand it. A lot of people are going to make mistakes. They're going to make a mistake and get a penalty at the end of it for making a mistake. We just felt like in the first year they shouldn't have a mistake, and all members of Congress and the White House should actually be Obamacare.
You're missing the slightly bigger point, which is it is law. It is law, and therefore a debate about what is existing law should not lead to the government being shut down. It seems utterly. But look, I've got to leave it there.
Well, the members of Congress, that's in the law as well. The exemption.
Why don't you two sound like you can talk to each other? Go and bang their heads together. Get Speaker Boehner and President Obama in a room tonight. Get it done for the American people.
Piers, we need to put a House bill on the floor that gets 218 votes, not 218 votes of Republicans. That's how the American democratic process works, and the Republicans are only allowing Republicans to make decisions, and extremist ones at that. It's unacceptable when government is closed.
Check the vote count. We've had Democrats on all of our votes. For every time that we send stuff over, we've had Democrats join us on every single one. All of them bipartisan.
The House work its will and reopen the government, stop holding the economy
hostage. We're ending with you two apparently in agreement, which is probably the first positive sign we've had all night. So thank you both very much.
Thanks, Piers.
Indeed. Is the Tea Party coming out on top now the government's shut down? I talked to the chairwoman of the Tea Party Express.